Okay, you're recording now.
About as ready as you can get after spending, 10 minutes looking at it. Basically what I did was I just pasted in your drawings just so I've got something I can, zoom in and reference and see a dimension on, that kind of thing. Snapping this thing together would be relatively quick if this was the type of thing I built all the time and I had construction principles preset. In this case, I don't really have anything for this, so it'll take a little bit longer than it would normally take, but that's okay. So let's see here. This thing is overall 5224 by 24. All right. So I'm going to use our article designer from a top view. What this allows us to do is to set up basically an area that our product would fit into, or our article would fit into, and then we have the ability, just based on preset construction principles, part definitions, we can come in and say, hey, I want to put a top. I can, choose a different kind of top. If I want to, bottom, left, right, front, back, just kind of like that, and we can snap together relatively quickly, any type of an article that we're looking to have based on preset construction principles. So in this case, I would have put together a box that kind of looked like that. In the case of this particular one, I'm going to actually have to go through and create some things as we do this. So let's see here. I got my height wrong. It's 42. 5224. All right. And of course, you can go back and modify as much as you need to. 42 high, yeah, 24. All right, so I just popped these in to have a placeholder. The first thing I want to work on, I'm fairly intrigued by the outside of this thing. You've got a couple of, looks like about 3 different materials. Some type of solid surface or stone here that's being supplied by someone else. You guys are supplying a template. And then a couple of different thicknesses when I look at these sections of wood here. So we've got this stone, we've got this wood. Bye. Okay. So I think I'm going to put this together. We have the option to do what we call a multiple part. So we can create a part made out of more than one part, but we use it like one part. In this case, I'm going to have a back in here that's going to be made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts, if you would. So I'll probably start with that. Stone, I want to see what this thickness on the stone is. Where are you? Just want to turn my snaps on. Half inch, 1 inch, half inch, okay. And my sizes, 2.5. Just making some notes here, guys. Be just like you saw it for the first time and I got to engineer it.
Well, that's exactly right, and everybody in this room understands that.
3/8 overhang there. Yeah, okay. So we have we work from a SQL database, fully relational SQL database. This Element Manager gives me a direct look at all the parts and pieces of my database, so I have the freedom just to kind of go wherever I want to. In this case, I'm going to do a part definition. Just pick one. I'm going to rename this, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to call it weird back for now. And this needs to be a multiple part. Set up some construction points for it. 2.5 by 6.5. So I need my outside edges. That's good. We use linear divisions, which are basically ratios, 1-to-1. I mean, I would have one part, 2 equal spaces, 1-to-1-to-1, 2 parts, 3 equal spaces. Or I can use actual numbers with dimensions. So in this case, I need a 6.5 inches to 1 to 2.5 inches. And I need another set. Point here, point here. That should be fine. Okay. Part definition, I'm going to call this I don't remember what kind of wood this was. I'm going to call this 1WD1. So you can create material on the fly. You can create folders to put it in. I'm going to call it solid wood. Try to spell it right though. And of course, the more things you create, the more things you have to work with, and the less you have to create on the fly. And then I needed some half-inch 0P5 wood 1C. And pick some walnut here, make it look pretty.
The raw thickness would be like rough lumber versus nominal thickness.
Right, if I were doing you know, a piece of half-inch lumber, but I wanted to do it at a 4/4 and plane it down, then I would do 1-inch raw thickness, 1-inch nominal thickness.
Okay.
So I could change this to 1-inch raw thickness. I'm going to plane that down. I'm buying 1 inch, but it's going to end up being half-inch. apply that. And that'll work. And I need one that runs this way. So initially I created some construction points here for my multiple part, and now I'm going in and creating my elements. So what's the part definition? That's where I assign material, any edge treatments that get done, that type of thing, and then what shape is it. Can also control how my edges are numbered. I'm just going to flip them all so my ones are on the inside. That's good. Actually, I guess I need new ones, don't I? Alrighty. New. Okay. That's better. So that's my 3 outside pieces on that. Just going to save that for now, so I've got 3 pieces there. Because I wanted to go back and look at this. Section. So let's center on the inside, and it's just butted, it looks like. Oh, there's actually nothing there. Got it. And going back to Element Manager takes you right back to wherever you were at last, so that's handy. Your part names can be whatever you want to call them. We can also assign what we call manufacturing information to them to assign different part names.
Like an auto part naming sequence.
Yep, exactly. So down at the bottom of each part definition, I can go to manufacturing information, and I can have different part names already preset, and am I going to cut list them, generate code for them, all that kind of good stuff. In this case, I'm just flying through creating some parts. Yep. And you are going to go here to here to here to here. Well, that was kind of dumb, wasn't it? I got you, I got you. New. There we go. All right. So now I've got that part that goes on the back, so I can use it. And it looks like, maybe what you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's actually a piece underneath this that runs all the way up, it looks like. Yeah, then this sits on top of it.
Back of the cabinet.
Yep. And that gets mitered around. Okay. take this back off. I actually want to split this, create some space here. So what I'm doing here is I'm splitting up my interior space. I'm making actually two different areas. You can see by what it's getting highlighted, so I can place the part I created in this area. And of course I can name these, call this applied back. Further want to split them, and I don't remember how much. Let's save that. Yeah. That was 10 inches. 2.5 at the bottom. What's going on down there? It's like a kick plate. Okay. I'm going to take this top off. There we go. And we're going to take this bottom off here. So now I'm splitting this tiny little space in the back up. This is where my actual applied wood back is going to get placed in. So it's going to be header panel. We're just going to go I want it as a side or a back. Let's do it as a back. So I've just copied a construction principle and given it some information for what I want. Don't want any grooves. So that places that back part in here the way that I created it. Section through that. So that is the same way. Comes around miters. Okay. Take these guys off. This guy. where it came up the same way. Do I want to do that? There it is. Here we go. 5/8. Interesting. Okay.
Larry, you still there?
I am still here. My wife was talking to me, so I muted.
Oh, okay.
Alright, so even though I've said to miter these, they're in different zones, so I'll have to come back toward the end here, miter these together. Not a big deal though.
And when you say miters on these pieces, it's assuming that they're separate pieces that are going to be made and then mitered, or is there any miter folding capability?
We do have miter folding capability, however, these are different thicknesses, so you can't miter fold that together.
Right.
If they were the same material, then yeah, we could just miter fold it. That would be a lot easier. But in this case, they're not. At least according to this section I looked at right here.
Right.
Okay, so that takes care of the wood outside. Let's take a look at this stone.
So with the stone not being part of the scope, would you bother to integrate that into what you're doing here?
I mean, I suppose you don't have to. Is that how they would actually make that? I can't imagine, but I suppose they could. Or you don't care, you just, hey, this is what I want it to look like.
Yeah, I think they do, only because of the thickness specified and getting that thing around. They're going with material that thin and then having to miter it back on itself.
Interesting. Okay, well, since that's a buyout, I suppose we could skip past that. I mean, you can always model that in later if you wanted to. I would think, though, if you wanted to get a cut list of how big that piece is, if they're actually miter folding it or if they're cutting different pieces and sticking them together, I don't know. It'd be kind of up to the stone people.
Right.
What you'd want to do with that. Okay. All right, cross sections. Where did you go? Okay. Get it back. It goes all the way up there. Gotta have some side panels in there. Short side, okay. work for us. Don't want to data it probably. Just put it in there. That guy I want to move in. That looks like the wrong way. Okay, better. Alrighty. Cross section. So, completely. So what's going on with this top here? Completely cut out there. Partial cut out there. Comes all the way through to there. Kind of looks like this right here. No?
Yeah, that's close.
Those are little pull-out trays that the printer receipt sits on.
Yeah, so this is stone. Doesn't go past the stone there, it doesn't look like. That center section.
Yeah, above the phone is a slide out. In the middle is the printer, the receipt printer. That's the only hardware. There's a wood veneer top.
Hey Larry, what's your email address?
Larry at millworkdetails.com.
I'm going to go snap a picture of what this thing looks like so you can have a reference.
Yeah, that's pretty, this was like a 3-sided box. Dang. That's a rollout. Okay, maybe we'll access panel in the bottom. So how do you get into this access panel? You got to pull all the bottom drawers out of all 3 openings, I would guess.
Yeah.
That's probably a one-time deal. 8, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Access panel runs all the way across.
I'm not sure if they're cutting through where the access panel is. Can you go to the plan sections? Yeah, the right-hand side. I think. Yeah, the one on the very bottom. No, there's only access panel on the right bay. It looks like the section is blown over there.
Okay, so just one hole cut out in it. And got a little notchy back there. $16.25.
Yes.
sent those pictures through, so let me know if you get them.
Okay, thanks. idea what that is. I missed that by a weird number, didn't I? Okay.
Now, when you're toggling back and forth, are you just double-clicking on the item in AutoCAD, and that's just bringing up this in Wood CAD?
Into the article designer, yeah. With modify article, here I'll go to a side view. So let's say I want to work on a particular part. In this case, I want to work on this bottom. So I can hit my modify article and actually pick that part. And it'll take me right to that where I'm at.
Okay.
So depending on which part you select when you say modify article, you'll end up going to a different location, depending on how complex this thing is going to get. So this saves you the time from having to figure out where you're at. But you probably noticed that I was naming these areas as I went through. I definitely recommend that you do that.
Okay.
Or otherwise, they're all called article designer group, and after a while you'll go, where the heck am I?
So from a perspective of nomenclature, an article is something that's like almost could be considered a shippable product?
Yes, an article would be a product of some type. Could be one part, it could be a group of parts. That would be an article. Article, product, item, we call them articles.
Okay.
This at 10, 4, 1, 8, 7, 5. That don't seem right. So in this case, in this rectangle, I'm just giving it the center point where I want it. And I missed it by a fuzz. Should this be 1 to 0? So one of the nice features of Wood CAD CAM is you can select a part and right-click, go to 3D workings on, and then you can see outlined in red any machining that's being done to it. I think I've probably got that about where I want it now. Yeah, still off a fuzz. I want it to be an eighth bigger then, I guess, both ways. Yeah, we'll move on to something else. You get the idea. Okay, bottom. Okay. A bunch of staggered openings in here.
Nice and easy, right?
It's not that bad. It's just a matter of where do you start and where do you stop. Okay, we'll just do this dude right here and this dude. That is, do I have a dimension? This cash wrap, top of that. Three and a half. Seven and 5/8. also notice that I can pick an area graphically by just double clicking into it, so that helps you figure out where you're at too. Something doesn't seem right about that, does it? Seven and 5/8. That seems better. Four drawers.
Is this for the drawers, Larry?
Yeah. That is not, I don't want that on set. Don't insert a base. I don't think that's right, but let me see what I'm getting here. overlay. More like what we're using here. Accurate slides, let's see. Do I have some accurate slides? Ball bearing. I'm going to run out of time here, Raj. I'm sorry. Yes. A little closer to it. Yes. Trying to get a few more pieces in here for you.
Larry, when we are talking about this product before you dove into it like this, you were saying that you felt it would take about 4 hours to complete the engineering. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, 4 hours should just about get me done. I don't see why I wouldn't.
Okay. I'm wondering before you leave, if you could, let's just assume that I want you to go ahead and throw the trash door in and do the other things real fast, and then let's show them the 2D drawing capabilities of it from this, and then maybe a cut list of what we got.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Does that sound okay, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're being real meticulous about getting it exactly the way they engineered it up, and you know, those are you're pulling information off of their already existing drawings. I wonder what they started with. It'd be interesting to know what they started with.
Yeah, I don't know. Some kind of architectural drawings, I would assume.
Right. So one question for you, Larry, would be, if this article was developed initially using Wood CAD CAM in this method, and let's say that the architect then said, you know what, I want to shrink up the trash opening, and I want to add this little partition here, and I want to change the length by 2 inches, how hard is it to modify this unit once it's been designed to you know, those kinds of changes driven from the red line process?
Gotcha. So the parametrics are built into the program. So overall, it's going to remain parametric. So if I would change the width, the height, the depth, that kind of thing, it's going to be fine. So if we came in and said, hey, we needed this to be 56 inches, that's going to be fine. What's going to stay hard values, like I put a hard value for that opening, so I would have to go back to that opening, and if we were changing that value, then I would have to come in and say, no, this needs to be 16 1/8. Those types of things. Anything that I hard-coded would be that way.
But the overall is parametric, and then there could be parametrics within some of this. Should you have used that, like a 1-to-1, or in a definition of a location of a partition?
Yeah, I could have said, based on what we're calling these. I mean, I don't know who the customer is, but I could have said, hey, my drawer opening is a variable. I could say my trash opening is a variable. Whatever's left goes over here for the printer, or maybe the printer is the number that really needs to be a variable, because they may change the printer, so I might have a variable for that, and then these can be whatever's left over. So yeah, you can certainly set up. Creating a new variable is very simple. We can go in and say, hey, I want to make a folder, anything. Folder, we call that a family. So make this a family. I can remove it out of this family so it's out by itself, and then add any kind of custom variables I want.
But on the same token, given that this is probably a one-off, just going in and editing the number as you're looking at the article is, because it brings all the machining and everything along with it, is almost just as easy too, like you just.
Yeah, for a one-off, that's the way I would do it. This is a one-of-a-kind. Now, again, if it was something for this customer that we're going to build them over and over, but some of the openings may change based on the printer that they're going to buy, or whatever may drive those openings, then I might create some variables for it. But a one-of-a-kind, yeah, they want this to be 22 inches. Let's just make it 22 inches.
Gotcha.
Also, I didn't show you this, but you can sometimes you don't get your information in inches, you get it metrically. So you can mix and match these openings.
You can.
Yes, absolutely. So instead of 16, I'm going to go ahead and make 3 openings here. We'll make this one 16 1/8 inches. Well, we'll just change it. I'm going to say this is 12 IN. This is 203 mm, and then give me whatever's left over. So I'll get another divider in there. So you can mix and match your inches and millimeters in the same linear division if that's the way you're getting the information. It doesn't hurt anything. Anytime we're doing a linear division, a whole number is simply a ratio. So if it's 1 to 2 to 1, that's a ratio. If I say it's 1 to 2 inches to 1, then that's a different linear division. As long as you call out the units, then it can calculate what it is.
Cool. And what was that dimensional thing down at the bottom that you...
Oh, this right here, this determines how we want to apply the linear division. So I can say, hey, I want this applied from outside to inside, or midpoint, or I want everything to be inside to inside.
Look, you can see them moving.
Yeah. So you can set a default. Here's how we typically do our linear divisions, and then here's how we can, at any one we want to, we can change, and yeah, you can see them moving up in there based on whatever you select.
I see. I couldn't see it moving before when you were doing it, but now that you do that, that's cool. All right, thank you.
Yeah, if I want my linear division to be, inside to inside, I can set it that way. If I want it to be outside to center, I can set it that way. However I want to apply it, I'll go ahead and green check mark that. And then in your INI file or your Wood CAD CAM options, you can set your default. What do you want your default to be?
I got you.
So whatever I use the most of.
So based on what I see here for this, and I don't know if this is your standard sort of configuration you work with, but if you had, we mostly do commercial type casework, so if we had a frameless library, basically those are your components that you're working with to create things. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and of course we give you a a rough frameless library with some units in it already built in. I mean, there's not a lot. There's 80 or 100 because it's so easy to build them. We don't really give you a ton of them, but we do give you some. We have pre-set up several different types of constructions that I can show you real quick. Joint method, order value. So we've said, hey, in the U.S. market, these are the typical types of constructions we see. So we preload a starter, what we call a starter database with those, and then you can select the one you want and at least get you going down the road with 80 or 100 basic frameless cabinets or face frame cabinets, whatever you're using to get started with, and then we teach you how to do it, and you can build whatever you want.
Right. So like for dowel construction configuration, if we had a spacing that, we wanted to do something different than the way that was defined, it's pretty easy to go in there and redefine what the dowel parameters are for spacing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's also a linear division. So I should be able to find that fairly easy for you. Connection, fittings, dowels. So the dowel standard is, this one is actually set up in what we call a descriptor file. So we can either do it, 1 to 1 to 1 or inches and millimeters, whatever. But if it gets more complex, like a conditional, then we can write what we call a descriptor file, which is just a text file with some simple, if it's this size, do this. If it gets to be that size, do that. So yeah, you can change it to whatever you want.
All right.
You see, we have statements we can say, as many times as you can at 128 millimeters or 96, whatever you want it to be. Or if it's less, if you don't have a condition, this is what it always is, and we can just type it right in there. But yeah, it's a linear division, just like everything else that we're looking at here.
Okay.
One of the other nice things that you can do, and I'll quickly show you this. If I wanted to, I can create a really large article here, if you would. Split it up into, I'm just going to use some virtual partitions and give myself 4 equal openings here. And then I can, inside each opening, I can use what we call an article zone, where I actually just go out to my library and pick articles to fit in to that opening. I'm just going to use 2 door uppers on this. Do the same on this one. Actually, we'll make this one a little shorter just for giggles here. Say 6 inches to 1. So I'll have one in here that's a little shorter than that. Article zone. And anywhere you're seeing a drop-down box, you see me grabbing this drop-down box, that's just populated with recently used items everywhere you see them. So now I can create a larger article here that is actually a group of things I've saved to my library. And thinking about what you do, those could actually be maybe a subassembly type components that you're filling in to create an article.
Okay.
Whole thing stays parametric. If they come back and they give me a different dimension, then hey, this thing's actually 162 now, then I can just change it and go, or whatever it may be. I just choose cabinets, but it could be anything you save to your library. It's a drink holder subassembly, which is simply one part with some hardware, and make a zone to stick it in.
I gotcha. So that initial article, when you're graphically creating the article zone, you're just sort of creating the parametric field that everything is associated with? Is that kind of what's going on?
Basically, that's it, yeah.
Okay.
And they don't have to be rectangles. We have article from contour where you can actually draw a shape. I want this article to fit into.
Okay.
So if I were to draw some Just draw a simple little shape here. What did I do? 8. So that's the shape I want to use. I want to apply it as if I'm looking into the side of it. And it doesn't give me a rectangular box, it gives me a box that's shaped more like what I drew. And you'll see it recognizes I have more parts. I've got 2 tops to put into it.
Yep.
Still got a bottom, still got a left and a right, which are automatically notched. It knows I have 2 backs. If I put a vertical partition, it knows it has to notch that just based on the shape that we're using. No, I want a partition. And so I can, based on my rules, I can quickly put together a shaped article, if you would. And it's tied to, whatever I say that polyline is. We actually turn this into data, so if I come back later and I want to stretch this polyline, whatever, and make it a different shape, then I can just reassign that. Hey, it's called an outline geometry. I'm going to pick it in AutoCAD. I called it shape. Do you want to override it? Yep. And we keep track of that information. We can add variables to this and make it even more parametric, where we can actually have a number we type in for these values, whatever you want to do with it.
Okay.
And of course, since it's assigned to this article, I just refresh it, and it adjusts the shape based on that new polyline with the same name. So it's not just rectangular items. And then if you get, really custom, like a radius reception desk or something, then we use what we call Object Designer, where we just draw a section through, and I want to follow this polyline. Here it is.
Okay.
And Roger, to answer yours, you wanted me to do 2D on this weird thing here real quick. So
Yeah, and show
plan
them how.
view of this guy. Put it wherever I want. So I get a true 2-dimensional plan view of whatever that looks like from the top.
And auto dimension it.
Yep. Can say view dimensioning. Stick some dimensions on it. Can create an elevation from this little 2D block, and I get to say, which way I want to look if I'm in a room. So it just creates a 2-dimensional, whatever it is you've got drawn, 2-dimensional, and again, you can, view dimension that. Create a section, many sections as you want to. Make sure I get a straight line here. And you can look any direction. I can look from here this way or from here this way, just depending on which side of the line I pick on. So I will try to section it in the same place, look in both directions to show you. There's looking that way. Cut a section again, approximately same place, and we'll look the other direction.
So do you find with customers that they're in bigger installations that they're using this as a design tool as well as a back-end tool to get product out to the shop?
Yes, absolutely. They're not only using it as a design and a submittal tool, but we're also generating, and we write to any machine, so might as well generate all the parts and cut them in the shop. The more you can make this an assembly function, the better your company is, the
Sure.
better off you're going to be.
Show
More
them
money you're gonna make.
show them the presentation side of it. I mean, just click
As far
on
as
just show
doing
them
a rendering or something?
just show them the presentation tab so they can see. You know, it's from rendering all the way to videos.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we're using, we pretty much go ahead and pre-assign some materials to it, and of course you can assign whatever you want to get your realistic view. We can create a room and automatically add lights to it, just whatever you've got assigned to it.
And this environment is much more, much faster to design in than in like Inventor or some other 3D software.
It's been a long time since I used Inventor. I remember Inventor was fairly user-friendly. However, the problem that I always saw with it was you really had to have a lot of experience with Inventor to be good at it, and then there was the issue with the back end. How do I generate my G code and that type of thing? So, yeah, I would just from my experience, I would say it's easier to engineer in it than an Inventor or a SolidWorks is.
Yeah.
And you get more benefit out of it too.
So, like for example, if you had a floor plan where you had wall panels where you were just doing a linear division equal across the wall,
Yep.
that's a relatively simple thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you could. All you have to do is create the one wall panel, and then I would use this same system like I did here. How big is my wall, and do a linear division for where to place my panels and stick them in there.
Now, in a configuration like that, is each one of those items a separate item, or are they all considered the same article?
They are part of a larger article.
Okay.
So if I went in here and said, hey, I want to see what this article is, it's listed as a single article, but you can see that there's subassemblies and each one is represented within the subassembly
So
as its own article.
So
this one's actually a little deeper there.
All right, so for like label data, if you were to go in and rename each one of those things, that's basically what would pull through as the top line description of what those parts belong to?
Yep, I would be able to come in here and name the overall parent, whatever I want to, and then I could name each of these whatever I want to. And we can assign a position number and a hierarchy to all of them. I mean, you get a position number automatically at the parent level, but you could assign another position number here if you want.
And that position number
whatever you want.
Moves it up and down in the tree? Is that how that works, or?
The position number? No, in the tree it just stays in the tree whatever order you inserted it into the drawing.
Okay.
But of course it can be sorted at the reporting level.
But the position number represents what?
An item number. If you're doing a loadout ticket and you need an item number for each item, then it could be it's just a unique identifier.
I see.
It's another field in the database that can be populated with whatever data you want, and then you can create a report and sort that data however you want to.
I got you. Okay.
So can you edit individual modules, like the cabinet that you have selected?
Yep. What do you want to edit about it?
Say you wanted to just make a single door, or have it cut out in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to do the cutout, but I'll do the single door for you because that's really simple. I mean, you have the option when you say modify something like this, because it's multiple articles within a larger article, I can choose to get the next level or the individual, or I can go to the parent level. So in the case of switching this out to a single door, that's just a different product in the library. It's a one-door upper. So that's pretty easy to switch that out. If I want to go in and make some type of a change at the individual level, of course I can. I can say modify article, pick the next level, and now I'm working at just on that one article. don't get hung up on this particular process. It doesn't have to be a complete cabinet. It could be one part. It's whatever you've saved off to your library and however you want to use it. So thinking about something like we were working on here, if we have some fairly common components that we can save as articles and use them as sub-assemblies, then that would be an ideal way to use an article zone within something like this too.
So, like, let's say in a POS unit like this, there were 3 or 4 uniquely configured drawers or pullouts or whatever that are typically always used in different configurations of POS. You could have them fixed off as individual sub-assemblies and then just insert them in.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're talking about for this phone area here, this rollout, that's something fairly common that we're using. I can just create it one time and save it, and then I just break that up into an article zone and insert that article that I saved into that area. I use them all the time. Maybe it's here, maybe next time it's over here, or it's over there, and so as I'm creating my POS, I can break up into those zones and use them as an article zone and reuse things I've already generated. And it just makes sense if you're creating something and you're going to use that again over and over. Let's save it off as its own article and reuse it. It doesn't make any sense to keep reinventing the wheel. We already know how to slice bread, so no reason to reinvent that.
So from your perspective, having used this, obviously anything cabinet-like with dowel joinery and some of the complexities along with that, any kind of system like this makes a lot of sense where you can automate and have that construction data, built into the database. When you go to more of the simpler level of, like, let's say wall panels or architectural decor, there the argument of just doing stuff in AutoCAD versus doing something in this environment, I would guess becomes a harder justification in terms of a time saver. But you have the ability to do it probably just as effectively as you would physically drawing stuff out in elevation in AutoCAD.
Yes, and the argument also is, if I'm drawing it in AutoCAD, I've got to cut list it at some point. So why not, create all my parts and pieces for that and save them off to a library folder somewhere that I can reuse over and over again. And not only am I getting the drawing that I need for submittal purposes, but I'm also getting the cut list with all the parts, material takeoffs, generating G-code for equipment, all of that. I suppose if you're just drawing in AutoCAD and you're given, you've got 2 guys in your shop and you're giving them a drawing that you did and they're going over a table saw and saying, okay, I need to cut a piece this size and cut a piece that size. You don't really have any CNC. Then I suppose you could make the argument that, it just doesn't make any sense. But it just makes sense to me if I'm going to draw it. If I've got to draw it, I might as well get a cut list out of what I'm drawing.
Right. So one last question relative to the parts. The material thickness is able to be adjusted back at the material level, and then parametrically all of the divisions and will be automatically adjusted and updated?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if I go in and say my white melamine I'm buying is thicker today than it was yesterday before I cut this, and I want to go adjust that, and that's going to update automatically. It just reads that data. It's a fully relational SQL database, so it's just going to read whatever you put into it. Good information in, good information out.
And from an AutoCAD, from a shop drawing preparation perspective, you get the basic output of your sections that you do out of the system, and then from there, they're locked in a position in model space so that if you annotate them with things for submittal purposes, even if stuff changes and you got to move the annotations around a little bit or whatever, you generally that stuff is locked to a location.
If I come back in, so I've already done a plan view and an elevation and a couple of sections. If I come back and make a modification, I'll try to make a modification that'll be visible here. Let's let's see, where is the height of this? So if I say that this is going to be 30 inches now, so you see that adjusted all that up. We know already that we've done some section work on it. Do we want to adjust those sections? Yeah, we do. So it'll come back, and I apologize for my dog. They decided to come over and cut my grass all of a sudden.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I've heard of people having bugs in their computers, but not dogs.
So you see, it didn't really change the plan view because I didn't change the plan view, but it certainly did change my elevation, and it did change my sections, and those updated, including the dimensions. So as long as you're using our tools off drawing views and you make a change like that, then it's going to automatically update all your 2D for you also.
Okay. And then how powerful is like the hatching capabilities and other stuff within those sections? Do you have a fair amount of control?
We do have some control. The hatching actually works off of one file, one PAT file, which you have to go in and modify. Any of your people that have done PAT files, it's the actual, zeros, 90s, commas that you would do a PAT file. One of the nice things I do like about it is you have the ability to add the name of the material that you're actually using everywhere.
Oh, well.
Now, you really can't see that when you print that section, but from the standpoint of an engineer looking at this before they send it to the shop, they can certainly double-check their material pretty quick before they actually release everything. I really like this part. But it can be turned off if you don't want it also.
Okay. Rob, what was your question on hardware?
Yeah, I have a question for you about, let's say, drawer slides.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed before you put in drawer boxes, and were the drawer slides automatically applied to the assembly because you created drawer boxes, or is that something that you would manually apply as far as machining goes, drilling holes?
We have a number of them already built in. Like I just went and picked out these were a ball bearing slide, and not necessarily a specific nomenclature. You can add in anything you want. We do have a downloadable website called iFern Online, which Roger can talk to you about, which has all the Hafele, Hettich, I believe, Grass, Bloom. I'm going to say there's a half a dozen major manufacturers, all their hardware that can be downloaded. It comes into the program and presets up the drawer boxes, the slides, the holes. Can I put in some Chinese knockoff that's got a different pattern? Sure, you can add any hardware that you want to. You have complete control over where the holes go and how you control those. We call them work groups, which you can change holes, move holes, and of course we teach you how to do that. It's not all that difficult at all.
Okay, now how about, let's say we wanted to swap out finger pulls or wire pulls for edge pulls, and maybe put a lock in the door over there. How difficult would that be from engineering?
Yeah, no problem. With this one here, I don't necessarily have a lock set up, but I can switch out the pulls pretty quick. So we allow you to do changes three different ways. We can set, our variables are set to a default value. This is what we typically do. We can change it at the order level, and one drawing is at one order, so we can change it for this drawing, whatever we want it to be. Or we have what we call article-specific variables. So I could literally change it article by article within an order, meaning if I had 10 cabinets, I could put a different handle on each one. So I'll just do it article specific since we just have the one article. I believe handle settings, handle selection. So see, we have default value, we have order value, and then article based. So I would say, hey, I want to, in this case, just change it for the article or the one cabinet, and then pick whatever you want to. I'll put a 9.5-inch bar handle on it. So my default was set to this, my order is set to this, but this one cabinet I want to change to that. And you can change any of the three. I could have said, hey, change the order value or change the default value. default values typically you set up before you really start using the program anyway. This is what we normally do, and then change it by order.
And so like handles and different pieces of hardware and things like that, how are you getting that information in there? Are you like pulling off a 3D CAD file from the vendor and then putting it in there and with references?
Yep, that's exactly it. Just download it from the vendor, and if they don't have it, then for me personally, I just draw it myself.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of, does it get drilling, does it get routing, what's going on with it.
And all of that drilling and routing is associated with the hardware, so that when that hardware is in place, it knows what to do on the corresponding part it touches?
Correct.
Yeah, I would have worked. So you go in there and you throw the hockey and assign machine. How would it relate?
Well, the output here for like our configuration is this is going to push out to a bunch of data and DXF files, and then it would run through CAD code to just make code.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I didn't know if we have to relearn all our machines, right?
no. It would go out to something either Wood or whatever language, and then it would just be mapped in CAD code. We wouldn't have to do anything different.
Now this will actually make a DXF file and another file for spreadsheet type that'll match up with the DXFs, and Ned knows how to run both of those through. I mean, you'll have to tweak it and all that, but we've shown him the files. So there won't be we won't be using WoodWop or anything like that.
Okay.
All right, I gotta run, gentlemen. Roger, I gotta run. Please let them know they can contact me, call me, or send me an email if they have additional questions. I'll be happy to answer.
Okay.
Larry, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
No
Larry.
problem. Take care.
Here, I'm going to stay on for a couple of minutes if you guys got questions.
Well, that showed me at least everything that I was sort of looking for, because based on what he did.